As soon as you blink, it's Friday. You go to sleep twice and wake up, it's Friday. What a thing. It's Friday again. Today, Friday, 11th September 2020. Of course, this is the big day in the United States, when in 2001 they experienced the first serious attack on their own home soil. But of course, celebrations are muted this year because Corona dictates that we change our behaviors in so very many different ways. For those of us Creticians and other Caribbean persons who would have had friends or relatives who would have been affected in one way or another by the attacks in 9/11, as we call it, 11th of September 2001, we offer our sympathies. Today on Frank and Candid, ladies and gentlemen, as we give Almighty God thanks for continued grace and mercy, love and compassion, we have two members of the St. Society for Persons with Disabilities. We have Mr. Ratcliffe Boyne, and we hear him all the time. He makes some very sensible, sound and sober contributions to various talk shows, irrespective of the topics. He is being heard here on Frank and Candid from time to time. And we have his colleague, Anthony Mills, the Venerable Anthony Mills, who is the president of the former president, so the immediate past president then, I believe, of the St. Society for Persons with Disabilities. We're going to hear from them today. Yesterday we heard about Alzheimer's, and I'm just learning from ex-President Mills that Alzheimer's is in fact considered a disability. So I guess it's only logical that we continue with that theme today to bring the curtain down on Frank and Candid for this week. So we're going to hear from these gentlemen as to what is it that they would like to share with us about disability, the various forms of disability, particularly the most acute types. I would say those are an inability to move about, either because of amputation or paralysis or incapacitation of some sort. One cannot use his legs as he wishes to move about freely, and of course blindness. In fact, some people argue that next to life itself, blindness, sight is the most important gift that God would have bestowed on mankind. So next to losing one's life, the worst thing one would like to lose is his sight. And I'm sure you agree that many persons would prefer to lose an arm or a leg, or both, rather than lose his sight. So we have Mr. Boyne, welcome to Frank and Candid.
Thank you very much, John.
And Mr. Mills, likewise.
Thank you very
It's
much.
over to you for your opening introduction before we open the lines.
Okay, good morning. My name is Anthony Mills. I'm the former president of the St. Kitts Nevis Association of Persons with Disabilities, and we're happy to be on here today to kind of educate the public more on disabilities, and how you treat people with disabilities is important, not only to the person with the disability, but to the community in which the people with the disabilities live, because the more people with disabilities are treated as equals, the better it can be for the community, because believe it or not, we have a lot that we can contribute to any society in which we live. And that's basically mostly that we ask for, is to be treated as equals and to be given a seat at the table. So as we go along and any question that arises, we'd be willing to answer all questions, and we would be willing to share more information.
Well, let me ask the first question. From the time you became involved in advocacy for persons with disabilities, have you seen any change, for better or for worse, in terms of how society treats persons with disabilities?
I must say, yeah, I've seen some change, but there's a whole lot that still needs to change.
That's right.
You know, but there's something that has gotten better. At least that's from I've been around. Mr. Boyne has been doing this longer than I have been.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have seen some of the things that I may not have been privy to, but ever since I've been involved in the disability movement in St. Kitts and Nevis, I've seen some change, you know, for the better. And as far as I understand, there's some more on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just have to work and see, you know, how fast we could push these, because I mean, we might sound impatient at times, but it's because people with disabilities have been left out for so long that it's like we're constantly playing catch up.
Mr. Mills, do you mind sharing with the public what the nature, you don't have to, but if you don't mind, what the nature of your disability is? I'm going to ask Mr. Boyne to do the same thing, if he doesn't mind as well.
I'm a T8 paraplegic, which means that I have an injury of the 8 thoracic on my spine, and it leaves me without the use of my legs, so I have to use a wheelchair to get around. We mostly refer to, like, I'm a wheelchair user, you know, a person who uses a wheelchair.
Were you born this way, or this happened while you were active?
This happened after I was an adult, actually.
Okay.
You know, I was like around 33 years when it happened, and I've been in a wheelchair for 20-something years now. So,
see, because there's someone who want to know, and you might get this question, I don't know, whether someone who was born with a disability better appreciates the asset of being able-bodied more so than one who acquires it later in life. Because I think, well, you know, what's your response to that?
I don't know how much you would say whether it makes much of a difference, because I speak to many people who was born with disabilities,
right,
and we seem to be on the same page.
Okay.
You know, because it kind of puts us in a position to wanting to do some stuff, but then there's a lot of limitations, because even though, I mean, I'm really active for a person in a wheelchair. You know, I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we know that. I know that for sure.
And then there's people in wheelchairs who's even more active than I am.
Okay.
You know, it's just, it comes down to the person. And the person has to be able to push themselves, and sometimes push themselves beyond boundaries that society will set, and you will think for yourself that I can get over this, because too many a times society set the boundaries that they think that a person with a disability shouldn't do this, or they shouldn't do that, or they're not capable of. But we, the people with the disabilities, know how far we can push ourselves, and we most of the times we are willing to push ourselves beyond any physical barriers that might present itself, emotional barriers, psychological barriers. And that is why you find people with disabilities all over the world doing great things. You know, you find people with, in almost all career, there's at least 1 or 2 people with disabilities, lawyers, doctors, teachers, you know, throughout the world you find people with disabilities.
Even politicians.
Yeah, I was looking at a program one time, and this guy climbed Mount Everest, and he has no legs.
Imagine that.
And he climbed to the top of Mount Everest, something that some people with 2 healthy legs don't make it to the top.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
So it's not that if we can, but
it's the mindset.
Yeah, and sometimes society don't allow us to.
Okay, right. Sometimes it's the mindset of the individual, the kind of attitude that he or she deploys, and at other times it depends on the support system that the society offers.
Yeah, because sometimes in the disability movement you'll hear sometimes attitudes is the greatest disability.
Right.
You know, and that's a societal attitudes. Because sometimes, I'm sure Mr. Boyne hears it sometimes, people will still ask us questions like, why you don't stay home?
You're making joke, you get that?
Of course.
We
2020?
We still get that. Why you don't stay home? You know, and you wonder, well, why they don't stay home?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, a simple fact to note is that in terms of committing crime, how many persons with disabilities are guilty of committing crimes? The vast majority of persons who are involved in criminal activity, especially those that hurt and harm other people, are persons who are not suffering from any disability. So, to some extent, one could argue that in as much as we don't wish for a society with everybody being disabled, of course, persons, the facts of the matter are, the statistics show clearly that persons with disability hardly engage in those kinds of violent crime. So that is one point, one angle one can look at it. But before you continue, let me have Mr. Boyne intervene and then come back to you. Mr. Boyne, over to you.
I want to touch on that. You know.
Sure.
You know, as you talk about crime, you know, sometimes it's the same thing. Somebody with a disability, especially, let me touch on persons who are blind or visually impaired. You go to a landlord to rent a house. The first thing, they are afraid to rent you that house because they don't want you to burn down their house. But you ask the question, how many persons who are blind living in homes who have got their house, burned down?
Right.
You ask yourself the question,
good question,
how many persons has been killed on our streets in terms of road accidents? How many blind persons? You understand?
Right.
Right.
So it just shows that it is time that persons, able-bodied persons, come to the understanding that even though we have our disabilities, you understand, I think we should give them, equal opportunity. Because if somebody who was sighted can rent a house, pay the rent, do stuff, we should be given the same opportunity. And touching on as we talk about how society look at persons with disability, I think we have come a long way. But despite we've come a long way, there are still those little pockets who have the this negative way in them, you understand. As we were saying earlier, they would tell you, oh, why you don't stay home, I remember one time I went into the St. Kitts Nevis and Angola National Bank, and when I came out the bank, it was this fella telling me, move out of my way, move out my way. I don't know why I don't stay home. I said, his work I just come from, just like you. And some people start.
You assuming he came from work.
Exactly, because
maybe he's an idler, maybe he's a loafer.
Right, So I had to set the record straight and let him know the reason I am in the bank is that I just came from work and I went in the bank, to change my check. But we have come a long way, and I think the work that both organizations has been doing, the Society for the Blind, the Association for Persons with Disability. Not only this was, but lately we have Addis Place, Cotton Thomas. They have been doing their work also, and I think people is now getting to understand that even though you have a disability, you can still make meaningful contribution, and that is exactly what we have been doing as persons with disability. We have been making our contribution, and what we are asking for is that give us the opportunity, give us the chance, give us the tools. We are not saying that everything we might be able to do, you understand, but we still have the ability to do so many things, especially in terms of advanced technology. Only this morning I was telling somebody, we were I was in the floor, and we were talking about blindness, and I said, you could imagine, I said 30-40 years ago, no one could have imagined that somebody who are blind can be a secretary, for an organization, you understand?
Right.
Now it is, technology has made that possible. So, we have come a long way, and, I want to encourage us as persons with disability, to go out there, show people that, we can do, we may not be able to do 100% like an able-bodied person, but we're not too far behind.
Yeah, but Mr. Moore, the fact of the matter is a lot of so-called able-bodied persons are not even operating at 50% of their capacity.
Right.
So really, it behoves all of us to treat every other person with dignity and respect, because there's so many of us who pride ourselves, who like to boast that we're healthy and strong and able-bodied. Right. And like I said, we're not operating anywhere close to our maximum capacity. Whereas a lot of persons with disabilities,
they make less contribution.
Not only that, I think that a lot of them, I know Mr. Boeing for a number of years, and they in fact discharge much more effort and energy, and in terms of achieving their desires. So in my books, they are operating at a higher level of their capacity than a lot of us who are able-bodied. So I think that it really, in 2020, it is anachronistic that we still have persons telling you guys, why don't you stay home? And I like how you responded to that demuted individual, who for all intents and purposes might very well be a loafer, right. Might very well be an idler, a vagrant, because I can't see any sensible civic-minded person with even an iota of sympathy, of understanding, making those kind of comments.
Well,
Right.
no, one of the reasons that it still happens is because of the way people still perceive people with disabilities.
Until it happens to them themselves.
Yeah, a lot of the times people perceive a person with a disability as not being able to. We always have to start from the point. It's like I was reading an article about the black situation in America, and this guy was talking about he was arrested and was perceived guilty and had to prove his innocence, right? And that is what people with disabilities, we are perceived in a way that we can't do this and we can't do that, and we have to always continually have to prove that we can, instead of people looking at us as equals. Some people automatically feel that you're sick
Because you're disabled, you are unable.
Yeah.
and so they treat you from a medical point of view,
Right.
you know. And then there's the others where all they can see is that you're a person who need charity, so they teach you from a charitable point of view,
yeah.
instead of looking at it holistically, that some people with disabilities gonna need that charity. Some people with disabilities are fully capable of leading fully independent lives, you know, and should be given all the opportunity and all the tools to lead those independent lives. That is why our organization and the Blind Society believe in independent living philosophy.
That's right.
Definitely.
You know, and we believe that nothing should be done about us without us.
Without
because
us, yeah.
if we're not at the table when you're making the decisions about us, you may very well make the wrong decisions.
Right.
Yeah, I want you to repeat that mantra there. Nothing should be done about you guys
Without us.
without
us.
you guys.
Yes.
In other words, you must be a part of the decision-making process.
Exactly.
Because able-bodied persons cannot, they can only imagine. They can only, how do I put it? They can only bring to a certain level of thinking what you guys actually, what persons with disabilities actually experience.
You're looking at it
But
through
and that
your-
will be doing it vicariously.
Exactly.
But in order for it to have effect, it must involve you guys who live this thing on a day-to-day.
Exactly, because
basis.
we are the experts.
Yeah, one example.
You're the experts, is correct.
Yeah, one example. We don't want an organization to come and say, you know what, we're going to build Mr. Mills a house. You didn't invite nobody on the planning committee with a disability.
Or you didn't invite Mr. Mills himself.
Right. But you go now, you know you're doing something very good for Mr. Mills. But you go and you build a house with 10 treaders. You see where I'm going with that? Now, if Mr. Mills was there, or somebody with a disability was on that planning committee, they would have said, you know, you cannot build a house with 10 stairs. You have to build a house with ramp based on Mr. Mills' condition. And that has been happening so many times, not only in terms of housing. People do things for us. And then when you finish it, you know, it's a good deed. But then at the same time, we are not able to benefit from it. You know, in a
Because it's impractical, yes.
Right, in a proper way, you know. It makes us handicapped, so to speak.
Right.
And you notice I deliberately use the word handicap.
Yes.
Because how are you going to build a house for Mr. Mills, who is in a wheelchair, you know, with 10 stairs? Somebody would have to lift him at all time, or we'd have to be crawling up and pull his chair behind him. But if you build that house with a ramp, you know, he just, you know, he wheels to the door, take out his keys, open, and he gone.
Right. Now, I want to ask each of you, what is your major, Mr. Mills, Anthony, you spoke earlier of a certain level of satisfaction with certain innovations that have been implemented to assist persons with disabilities. So you're saying that you have seen some changes, positive changes, but there's still a long way to go. What is your major peeve right now? What would you like to see immediate, if possible, immediately occur to help to bring about even further change to benefit you guys? What is your major peeve right now in terms of what obtains that you'd like to see change? And I want to get the same response from Mr. Boyne, because you're suffering from a different issue from Mr. Boyne.
Actually, I would like to see two things.
Right.
One, I would like to see that there be a national policy on disability. The reason for that one is because it would drive everything else. it would ensure that my second one, which is a complete revision of our building codes, the national policy would contain all of that. It would drive decisions from the time that policy goes to the house and be gazetted and all that, all the
procedures,
that stuff that it has to go through. Once that happens, then everything else, we no longer would have to approach individual businesses and tell them, well, you guys should make this and this change, because the government would already set it out.
Yeah, it would be contained
in the act.
In the right, yeah.
Right? And then, so that was one of the main things I would like to see, because it would make our job as lobbyists, as advocates, a lot easier. I would also like to see the education system change.
So that's three. Yeah, that's the third one you're introducing.
Yeah, but because I think that a lot of young people with disabilities in the federation actually falls through the crack.
Yeah.
Because I think some of them is capable of doing better, but are not given the chances to do better.
But the policy would also speak to that.
It would.
Yeah.
But you also can address that in the education policy.
Yeah, well, in the New Education Act, because I'm very familiar with the Current Education Act, which to some extent I have, I had some input in constructing. But I wanted to know. Well, I'm thinking, why doesn't the Association of Persons with Disabilities, since it has amongst its members persons like yourself and Mr. Boyne, two very intelligent individuals, why don't you draft a document? Why don't you craft a document and have a lawyer or whoever refine it and further divine it and so on, and then present it to government?
So
has that been done?
Not really, but can I put you on a spot and ask for your help in drafting it?
I want to make it clear today on Frank and Candid that I am offering my services in that respect.
Okay.
Right.
Because that might be the way to begin.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was told that about a couple of years ago by somebody, that same thing, but I don't remember exactly who told me that. But it was somebody who was involved in politics.
Right.
That would be one of the ways that we can go.
Definitely.
Is to try and draft it up and then present it to the government.
Well, we're going to be working on that almost immediately, because I'm going to be calling you guys. We'll get together, and you can involve whoever else you wish, because you know the person better than I do, and we begin the process.
I'm on board.
Absolutely. And let's hope that by during the course of next year, the latest 2021, that it will be ready to be taken to Parliament, to Parliament, yes, for discussion.
We have a lot of young people in our organization who is eager and ready. So, and I think getting them involved in something like this would be
definitely
a good idea.
Yes. Mr. Boyne, same question to you. What's your major peeve? Since your issue
one
is
of the things I would like to see happening, let me touch on education. In our schools, right? I would like to see the various schools, they upgrade their computer lab.
Right.
In terms of suiting somebody who is blind or visually impaired. Now let us say you have somebody going to the Washington Archibald High and they develop eye problem, and eventually, God forbid, they go totally blind. What happened to that child? You understand? Now, if you have your computer upgraded to the different software, right, to suit somebody with a
visual disability,
visual disability, you wouldn't be able to discard that person. That person wouldn't have to, drop out of school. He or she can continue the education
seamlessly.
Yes, because you see the computer, they are now upgraded, and the computer will now able to translate print into speech.
Okay.
That is something that I have been longing, for, to happen in our schools. So this is something that I am calling upon the Ministry of Education, and we have a new Minister of Education, and this is something that I am going to be working along with Mr. Mills when we make an appointment to see, Mr. Powell. You understand?
Yeah, and this will
be brought to his attention. Okay.
Definitely.
I know some work. One of the things that I am very concerned about is in terms of other type of disability in our schools. I would like to see the schools, Mr. Mills touched on the building code, right? I would like to see some of the schools also, upgrade the compound of the schools, because sometimes you have some schools, somebody in a wheelchair cannot get to a certain, area in the schools. I remember several times myself and Mr. Mills go to different schools, and because Mr. Mills can't get to the what they call it here, the
assembly area?
the conference,
the staff room,
right, to talk to the children,
the auditorium, yes,
right, the auditorium, that's the word I was looking for. Something, you have to take them underneath a tree, to suit Mr. Mills, right. We would like to see more ramps. I think some of the schools, they have done some work. I think Mr. Mills can bear me out on that, right? I think some of the schools, but
your argument, your point is that is well taken, that schools need to be retrofitted, and any new, to accommodate persons like Brother Mills here, and any new school, they speak of a state-of-the-art Bastille School.
That's right. Yes.
Definitely, it will be far from state-of-the-art if it does not accommodate.
And that has been my complaint since they started talking about that school. Because how do you build a brand new school, 20th century school,
21st century,
and have no accessibility options in the school?
Exactly, it has to be a part of it.
You're building a school that is on 2 levels, and not even the ground floor is accessible, because you have to step up to get onto the corridor, and there's no ramp to get up onto the corridor. Because unless the drawing that I've seen is not the final drawing, but I've seen a concept drawing, and maybe it's not the final one, but from that drawing there don't seem to be any accessibility features.
Well, let's hope they have revisited it, and let's hope that the final product will in fact.
And also one of the things that we've been trying to do is to get the Ministry of Education to begin to look at the program that we've been trying to build for some years down at the McKnight Center as a continuing education program for young people with disabilities, and to give us the technical help and put the resources into it to build it into a more educational based program for young people with disabilities, so that even though they might not be able to go on to college, it could become like a sort of a technical school. They could learn skills, there to learn different skills, and then be able to go out there and get jobs. We need the help of the government to build it into the program that we want it to be. By ourselves, we don't have the technical expertise to build education.
You don't have the resources.
So we need their help and their resources to help it to get it to where we want it to go.
What we're going to do, gentlemen, we're going to take a station break now and come right back. We'll open the lines when we come back.
Thank you.
Yes, okay.
Whether we go back to school virtually or physically, at Harper's, we've got the best tools to take care of your home office or schooling needs. Our Superstore location at the C.A. Paul Industrial Site is the only place where you can get the widest range of school and office supplies on the entire island. Hate long lines? Then ask about our pre-packaged school bundles for one flat price that contains all the essentials. Just pick up, pay, and go. You can also drop off your school list and we'll do the shopping for you. So as we go back to school via Zoom or in the classroom, Harper's will see you through. Harper's, we mean school business.
Poinciana Restaurant on the Frigate Bay Road opens daily at 11 a.m. to serve you lunch and dinner. Whether you desire to dine in or take out, Poinciana Restaurant offers both to serve you better. Call Poinciana Restaurant at 465-5216 for your lunch or dinner takeout and reservations.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Boyne. We're back on. Thank you. Thank you very much for sticking and staying with us here on Franklin Candid. We are hosting two prominent members of the Single Society for Persons with Disabilities, including the president of the Society for Persons Blind and Visually Impaired Persons.
St. Kitts Society for the Blind.
St. Kitts Society for the Blind, because there's a separate entity in Nevis. Now, the lines are open. You can call us at 465-2555 for your Franklin Candid and share with us your concerns, ask your questions of any of these two gentlemen.
And we would like people, if I may, Mr.
Sure.
Blake, I would like for people to call in, ask us questions, they can also share how they come up with recommendation, because too many times when you have these programs, people don't seem to feel that these programs are important to them, right? It's not the most juicy program that, they're accustomed to listening to, right? But, I mean, in these days, diabetes has been, so rampant, and, more and more people are,
We have a caller, Mr. Boyne. Let's take this caller. Hello?
Hello, good morning, Mr. Blake.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning, Mr. Boyne.
Hi, good morning, Culture.
Yeah, and your other colleague.
Mr.
I
Mills,
remember his name. Wait, name. Philip, anyway.
Mr.
Mills.
Mr. Mills, yeah, Mr. Mills. Good program, And I'm so glad that you all have that today, because if I tell you something, some day ago, what it was, a centipede sting me. And I said, no, man, I don't have to go doctor with this. But when I think about the doctor who specializes in where the centipede sting me, I said, it is impossible for me to get up them steps in that place there.
Yeah.
And I said, no. I wonder if that doctor ever thought about providing the facility to accommodate people like me, who now become a mini-moke with small wheel. Can't get in there unless I go sit down in an elevator and go up. So I say now, going forward, any building that is constructed to be used to serve the public,
Right.
whether they have 1 stair, 5 stair, or whatever, they should provide facilities to accommodate disabled people. Disabled people.
Yeah, person with disability.
Differently.
Whether it's a ramp, a wheelchair ramp, or an elevator. Don't just throw down a big building and looking at the money coming in the steps.
So,
But too many times you see disabled people go and they stand up outside and ask somebody to do this for them because they can't get in there. So I think that should be in the Constitution, that if you're going to construct a building that can be used for commercial purposes, provide these facilities.
Yeah, that should be in the building code, definitely.
Right, definitely.
Yeah,
And
building
again,
code.
they have to think about people like Mr. Boyne and whosoever it is, visually impaired, that the place provided for people to walk. They cannot obstruct the people who are walking in it, who's supposed to walk on it, with their structure what they put on the sidewalk.
Correct.
And then you now have to walk in the street and get bumped with a vehicle mirror. So these things need to be considered.
Yeah.
And this here now with the police here is where the police come in to enforce the law. Just like how you can't park up your car in the middle of the road and go fix it. They're going to make you move it. Well, why should they not look into it that people are being obstructed with these people who are taking up the place provided for people to walk? Thank you very much.
Now, before you go, Mills has a question for you.
Yeah.
I was asking because, many a times we hear these suggestions.
Yeah.
But we would always want to ask the people, are you willing to come on board and help us to fight for these changes? Because the more people are helping us to fight for these changes, the easier it would be to get these changes. So my question to you would be, are you willing to come on board and help us to fight for these changes?
Mr. Mills, you come like you was a good copier in school, copier for you. Because that is my idea, my suggestion every day.
Thank you.
All right, well.
Because I keep on telling people, one individual protesting in a community, he has no strength.
Right.
And the more people go with him to petition protest in a village or community, the quicker the problem will be solved.
Very good.
But a lot of people like to see the problem, sit down, lay back, and want one person who call on the radio every day go with that issue. So you copy of me book, Mr. Mills.
So the answer is yes, definitely.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Let's take another caller. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning to your panel.
Definitely.
I have two issues.
Yeah, I hear that.
Number one, either Mr. Mills or the other gentleman suggested policy, not even policy change, but a policy construction. And you suggested to him that he will choose somebody and you will come and help him. But two persons sitting down don't make a policy. A policy is a national thing. It has to come from a broad-based societal group to sit down and hammer out every single thing you can think about concerning this thing. And then when you get the final product approved by the majority of the people, then the politicians will have no other choice but to go into parliament and make the necessary adjustments. The number two thing I have to talk about is Cotton Thomas. There is a place called Cotton Thomas Comprehensive School where it seems as if all the persons with any sort of disability is gone there. If they can't walk, it's Cotton Thomas. If they can't learn, it's Cotton Thomas. If they can't see, it's Cotton Thomas. If they can't hear, I taught at Cotton Thomas School. And it is so overwhelming for the staff because all and sundry is brought there. And even though you have a few specialists, they're not specializing in they can't hear, they can't see, they can't walk, they can't everything. So I'm suggesting that probably we need to start there, to look at a real comprehensive institution, to have the people who, born with disabilities, who are suddenly struck with disabilities, to be properly channeled, to be properly taken care of, not just to put up at a place and all of them just bundled in together, because it doesn't make sense. In that way, they come out really nothing, because the staff there is overwhelmed. I can tell you the staff is overwhelmed, because they're not specialists in everything.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Let's take another caller. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, just to continue with the last caller would have left off. Very good points there. And persons seeking employment who are specialized, have knowledge of disability, this is a chance for you to get a job. It's time for persons to be much brave about doing so. I know the government have done some work, especially in Bastia, in terms of making ramps accessible to buildings in the banks. So persons are taking the steps. Maybe more should be done at a faster pace. But I'm happy that the two gentlemen are there. I know the gentleman from Challengers very fast. I saw him catching bus. I like the fact that sometimes I can see people assisting him, going in the bus, because I don't see anybody coming for him at morning and afternoon. He had other lady with him. She worked at the Night Daycare Center.
That's my
I've
wife.
had time where I've given a lift downtown and home.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, okay, carry on.
Excuse me?
Yeah, carry on. We're having a little issue here with the headphones for...
Oh, yeah, so I was saying that I like the fact when I see persons helping these persons who are at some form of disability, and more can be done, and I'm happy that the two gentlemen are there, because persons are listening, the government are listening, and I can see some more changes coming. And you're correct, there's no building should be built where you cannot have access to it. So good program, and I look forward, for more building.
Okay, we have another
to help.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just a minute here. Just want to clarify this matter here on the headphone here. All right. Now, the last caller but one spoke of the dissatisfaction with the idea that two of us will construct the national policy on disability. I think she misunderstood.
I think
because
so
I am certainly suggesting that the initiative be taken by the society, the association,
Right.
and that I will be willing to assist if necessary. And I'm sure there are others who are in a position where they can also contribute to the crafting of such a document. But in no way that this document will be done or put together by one or two persons, and it will be coming from it's coming from the association.
It's not something that can be done by one or two persons.
Exactly.
It's it has to be holistic, and
That's okay. Yeah, carry on.
It has to be something that is done through consultation with the broader community.
Right.
There's some 15 to 20% of the population of St. Kitts and Nevis that lives with disabilities in some form or the other, and it would be unwise to not include as much, if not 100% of them, in getting something like this put together, because you would need input across not only just the disabled community.
Go ahead.
Not only just the disabled community, but you would also need to have persons who don't have a disability to be able to give input also, because remember that the issues that face people with disabilities is not just a people with disability issue, it's a community issue.
Very
That's
good point.
right. Yeah, exactly.
And so that you have to have the community involved.
Right.
Let's stop you there, Mills. We want to take this caller here. Yeah. Hello.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blake.
Yes, sir.
I think we
This
do
is William Hart.
this one and we'll-
Very well. Mr.
I
Hodge,
want to
PS in
let
education.
Mr. Boeing and Mr. Mills know that the Barnsley High School is fully equipped. The new Barnsley High School, which will be a state-of-the-art high school in the OECS and the CARICOM region.
Yeah.
I want the person with disabilities to know that that school will be fully equipped
It's not over here.
with all the necessities for ramps and wheelchair access and all those things to benefit our students who are differently able. I can assure them of that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for that assurance.
Yes. Yes. I'm glad to hear that.
Coming from the top level himself.
Secretary, yeah.
Right. So thank you very much, Mr. Hodge, for that assurance, because the members of the Association of Persons with Disabilities, of course, would have had legitimate concerns as to whether that is so. Okay. Hello, you still there? Oh, he's gone. All right. Now, Mr. Boyne, I and Mr. Mills, I know you guys so often meet at the Macna Community Center. Is that building the kind of building be described as the headquarters or a building for persons with disabilities? Because I've just read, for example, that in Nevis, an initiative to give the disabled on the island a voice as well as a place to congregate is about to become a reality. They're about to have the Nevis Community-Based Rehabilitation Center. Is that what the Macna Community Center is?
Temporarily.
It's temporarily our home.
Mr. Mills will explain more on that. He's more involved.
We have been given a piece of land in St. Peter's by this government. We're in the final stages doing the final legal work to get the title for the land. But we have been given this land to build such a headquarters for us. Once we have all the technical details sorted out, we will begin to start seeking help in terms of raising funds, doing a design for the building and stuff like that. But until such time when we can build the building, we have reached out to the Ministry of Agriculture through the PS, and to be able to use the land for the time being to plant food on.
Okay, makes sense.
The PS has agreed to give us all the technical help from the Ministry of Agriculture and the resources that we would need to do such a project, and that we would be able to do that until when we can raise the funds to build a building on the piece of land. It's about a 1/4 acre land that we have gotten.
What part of St. Peter's is that?
It's behind the daycare center.
Okay, so it's pretty close to the main road.
Yeah.
Okay, and that will be Paris Village. Well,
I'm not sure if it's Parry or what, but
Okay.
I don't too sure.
But it's in that area,
It is in
general
that area.
vicinity.
Yeah, behind the decade.
Well, I'm sure that there are persons and businesses who would be willing to donate generously when you guys are ready to raise funds. And government itself, of course, I'm sure will contribute towards ensuring that that is done expeditiously.
I just want to take this opportunity, Mr. Blake, to
Sure.
say thanks to the government, right, for coming on board, because when we obtained the land, we were given the land, well, we had to pay for it, but we made full representation, and the land was given to us free of charge.
Of course.
And this is something that I must, commend the government for, for partnering with us. They have laid the foundation. It is up to us now, and the private sector and other persons, who are interested in seeing persons with disability, have a home of their own.
Okay, very good.
I must say that so far we working with this government has been good, because
Yes.
we was able to get that bus that we have because
That's right.
of I must give kudos to Minister Hamilton as far as getting the bus on the
concerned.
road, because he was very instrumental. I don't know who he spoke to, but we spoke to him, and 2 weeks after, so they called us and tell us that it was
Governments have a lot of influence, eh?
So I guess whoever he spoke to, he made a good case for us, and
Very good.
and
Very
got
well.
that done. So we've been able to get a couple of things, and but we still would like to see the UN convention, which was signed and ratified last year. To begin the implementation of that convention. I know it's a work in progress, like the Prime Minister told me. It's a work in progress, but I guess sometimes you could call us impatient, but like I said earlier, it's because we've been behind for a long time.
No, Mr. Mills, your association for persons with disability really concerns itself with persons with physical disabilities.
No, with all disabilities,
including mental health disabilities.
Mental, physical,
Oh, really?
psychological,
Yes.
blind, autism.
Does the association accept people who are illiterate as being disabled?
Well, I don't know if we don't.
I remember hearing a guy argue that he cannot read now, right? So therefore, he should be considered
We don't
suffering from a disability.
We don't use the word illiterate.
Illiterate, right.
It's because people who may not be able to read or write are considered to have intellectual disability.
Right, that's right, yes.
disabilities.
Right. Mhm.
So, and we also represent people with intellectual disabilities.
No, I found it interesting when he made that point, and he said, "Hey, Blake, I know you're supposed to be an educator, but I can't read now, right? I think I'm disabled. What do you think?"
But he just have an intellectual disability. But you have to not confuse the intellectual disability is not because a person choose not to learn to read and write. Like I have friends who since primary school they've been running away from school. Your parents send you school and you're going to look keen or you're going down the bay or something.
Yeah.
They've been running away from school since, and then they grow up to be grown men and they can't read or write. But it's not because they have an intellectual disability, it's because they choose not to learn to read and write.
Okay. Because when I think of blindness, for example, there are so many persons. No, Mr. Boyne's association represents persons who are blind and visually impaired. Do you know how many persons think if they were to remove their glasses, who would be worse than blind? Who would be worse off than being blind? Or they'll be just as blind? There are a number of persons, if you wish to incapacitate them, just remove their glasses. They are so visually impaired that without these glasses, brothers, they might as well be completely blind.
Yeah, I know quite.
I have been making that point so many times, and it's a very controversial topic.
No, but it's a serious thing.
Yeah, because they don't want to accept, right? If they remove them, sometimes sometimes you take a document to somebody, they're going to tell you, "Oh my God, wait, Mr. Boyne, wait, I can't read this document without my glasses," and then I say in my mind, "Oh." But you can't tell them that they are visually impaired.
But
Well, I am visually impaired. I make no bones about it. I cannot read without glasses.
That's because of the stigma that's
Right.
attached to disabilities. Because
Once you don't have
Let's take this caller first because we are running out of time. Hello, caller.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Blake.
Yes, sir.
And good morning to you, other guests there.
Good morning, sir.
I would like to know, it is true that the government had wanted to close down the center down by the garden and then the one over by Greenlands because of the thing was flying in the air.
You mean Corona?
Yeah, the corona.
All schools were closed. All schools were closed during the corona. All schools.
But I had wanted to close it down completely.
No, I am not aware of that.
I am not aware of that.
I'm not aware of that. No, nobody told us that. Aware, no. And I manage the program at the centers at the.
So that sounds like propaganda.
No, it's not a propaganda.
I said it sounds like.
Try and get the facts and come and let people know exactly what they had planned to do for these kids. Have a good day.
I see. Well, we can only do that by
Yeah, because Mr. Mills is the operation manager.
If that was an issue, I would have known because I'm the person who managed the program.
Yes, he's the operation manager.
Nobody did that. I don't think that is true, and it would not have been a wise decision anyway. And I don't think they would have made that decision to close down a program that is so intricate in a lot of people's lives. Because I mean, let's face it.
Spend a lot of time on that.
COVID shut down pretty much the whole country.
Of course.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Now going back to the question of visual impairment. So I'm suggesting that since your society represents persons who are not only blind, that is to say they have no sight at all in either eye, but they're visually impaired, there are lots of persons who qualify. But I also want to remind the public that no one is as blind as he who has vision, who has sight, but no vision.
True.
No one is as blind as he who has sight but no vision. And the Bible itself makes it clear where there is no vision, not sight, the people perish. So those of us who are sighted, we can only boast, so to speak, if we accompany that with vision. Mr. Boyne, Mr. Mills, your final sentiments because we are about to wind up.
Well, I just want to say thanks to you, Mr. Blake, for inviting us on the program. For us to share, our concerns, ideas, and different stuff. I also would like to say thanks to the callers for calling in, and that interaction with us. And I would like to ask persons out there, able-bodied persons, just to look at somebody with a disability as just differently able. Despite our disability, we can still make meaningful contribution, and we have proven to the general public, we have been doing that. I can use myself as an example.
I was about to say that.
Yes, I work at Lutheran for 23 years until they close. Exactly. My wife who is also blind like me. February gone, she make 26 years up at the daycare center.
Congratulations.
And if myself and wife can do it, I don't see why nobody else can do it. You understand?
Right.
Give us the tools and we'll do the work.
Precisely. Very well said.
Again, thank you, Mr. Blake.
You're welcome, sir.
Well, the same. I'd like to thank you for having us, and because we was able to let the general public kind of know what affects people with disabilities. And I would like to end by inviting the general public to partner with us to help bring about some of the changes that we are trying to bring about, because the more people get on board with bringing about these changes, the better it is, and it makes it easier to bring about these changes. It's better for society when people with disabilities are involved in the communities, because the whole community benefits. So I would ask and appeal to the general public. Speak to your representative about the changes that is needed in your community. Partner with the people with the disabilities in your community. See what they would like to see change. So that they could be more involved in the community in which they live.
Okay.
And then, we would be able to make this society a better society.
Thank you very much. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, it's about 10 seconds or less.
Yeah, I just want to let them know that in terms of meeting, our general membership, we meet for the Association for Persons with Disability. We meet every third Saturday at the Macknight Community Center. For the Society for the Blind, we meet every second Monday, but that would not be done until next year, God's will. In January, we have suspended all meetings.
At what time is the meeting on Saturdays?
On Saturdays, it's 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
Yeah, 4 p.m. And
when is the next one?
It will be in January. All meetings has been suspended for 2020.
Well, we have time to remind them. Yeah, and I will just have you guys back on this program sometime soon. Yes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being a part of Frank and Candid today. That's it for the week. And I do hope you enjoy a God-filled, God-fearing weekend. Until such time as we meet again, do the right thing. Blessings.